Negar Mortazavi is a journalist from Iran, now in the United States, living in exile. Her family having to deal with this regime, which forced her to where she is now, still covering what matters, but based in the United States. And Eyal Hulata comes back for some perspective with us. Negar, thank you very much. Short notice, Saturday night coming in, but this is a time to be making your witness. What do you make of this event, and what do you think happens next?
Well, I think this is absolute disaster. This is the next war that we were all warning, including the president himself, that shouldn't be starting in the Middle East. This is the U.S. directly entering the war. And I think if we look at the Iranian rhetoric, the government rhetoric and their past precedent, it's likely that they're going to respond to this and essentially see this as a major escalation, a declaration of war, and they're going to escalate further. So I'm honestly shocked, because just today, Secretary Rubio also said that they want to resolve this diplomatically, and President Trump had talked about a 2 weeks waiting time. And I don't know how this came about, but I think nothing good can come out of it. And I actually wrote it down, Chris, what you said, that you can't point at any country there that the U.S. mess with and say they're doing better. And I absolutely agree with that. This is bringing back memories of before the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. And there was so much bad to deal with in those countries, so many reasons for the sort of regime change and the justification. But it didn't really lead to more stability, more peace, and more security in the region. And I'm just worried that we're going down that path again.
Perversely, and not to go down this road tonight because we have enough to deal with, but that is the rationale for why Israel occupies the southern territories of Palestine, Gaza, et cetera, which is you can't trust it to a regime unless there's enough strength domestically for it to be a fair and just system. You wind up with Hamas. You wind up with a terror organization at the top. So they have to occupy just to make sure there's stability for themselves. Now, I'm not arguing it's the best way, but I'm saying with the experiences empirically of what we've seen in these other places, you see why Israel arrived at that conclusion. What about this, Negar, before I bring Eyal in? The idea that, yes, this will actually help stimulate negotiations because now the regime knows that America will come in and put a foot on their neck. So now is the time to sit down and make a deal because Trump's not bluffing.
I don't see that pragmatism coming from Tehran. I mean, they understand they don't have any good options in front of them. The unconditional surrender will just bring more pressure from their view. And responding also is an escalation. It is essentially going head-to-head, face-to-face with the world's mightiest army in human history, even potentially. And but there are no good options in front of them, and I don't see that level of pragmatism, at least right now. I want to do a flashback to 2020 when the assassination of their top general, this is under the first Trump term, they did respond by attacking that U.S. base in Iraq, the Al-Assad base. The Iranians shot 300-something missiles into that base. And after that, actually, ironically, it de-escalated. So both sides took an off-ramp. It was a 1-for-1, and then it ended there, and war didn't start. So that's the thinking in Tehran that I'm hearing, the calculation sort of in their analysis that they're talking about, that if they don't respond, this could potentially end wars. And if they escalate a level further after the escalation, there could be an off-ramp. So maybe we will see an off-ramp at de-escalation after another level of this, but I think right now they're just really focused on a response.
Mr. Hulata, what do you think in terms of focused on the response? What is the likelihood that the regime has the, I don't know, fill in the blank what this word would be for you, to not retaliate?
Well, first, I'll say that the fact that the supreme leader in Iran has only bad options is a good thing. It's a good thing for the region. It's a good thing for Israel, of course. And I think it's also good for the United States, because this is exactly the kind of boxing you want to put this regime, that they have to choose between bad options. My hope is that this set of bad options would lead them to retaliate. Maybe not to retaliate at all, and maybe just to do something that is very, very symbolic. I think anything else would be foolish, because it would just bring in more retaliation. I don't think the United States. I mean, it's tempting to compare this to Afghanistan and Iraq, but I don't think the United States is anywhere close to invading Iran. I don't think there is any appetite for that, nor is there any need to go into Iran, right? So what we had here is a very surgical, precise, and limited strike, going only after nuclear facilities. By the way, the same logic that Israel employed in June 12th, we went after the nuclear facilities and the military capabilities and nothing else. If Iran will respond against the United States the way it has responded against Israel over the last week, firing at our heavily populated areas and killing just civilians, nothing else, I think this will be a mistake, because this will just bring in more retaliation from the Americans that would be justified, and the Americans can do a lot of damage to the Iranian military and civilian capabilities just from the air. So my hope is that within these bad options, the Supreme Leader will make the less foolish option and decide to de-escalate now that he does not have his capabilities to go into a nuclear weapon on all of the fronts, especially after what I hope is a good outcome of the American attack. They have few options, and that's very good for the West, for the world, and for the region, of course.
Negar, I apologize in advance. You were very polite to me the last time I made this same stupid suggestion, which is to ask you to answer for all Iranians. But I do appreciate you giving us a feel for how people who are not in favor of the regime, who want to get back to their own determination, people do not understand the history of Iran in America. They don't understand Persian culture. They don't understand how diverse and how rich and how philosophical and how studied the people are and how open that society once was. So they just see the regime. But, you know, yes, these were targeted strikes from Israel. This was targeted from the United States. They are definitely putting out numbers, even if you want to reduce them 90%. Civilians were hurt in the bombings from Israel. People died in those bombings from Israel. We may hear the same thing now, even though 2 of these 3 areas are pretty remote where they were bombed. What does that mean in terms of the dynamic as who's the friend, who's the enemy for the people of Iran?
Or there are no friends, essentially feeling that you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, this repressive domestic space that you oppose and you try to protest and, sound your grievances one way or the other. And also that you see is failing to protect you, failing to defend you, defend the homeland, defend your homes, as you're saying. The civilian toll on the Iranian side is between 400 to 600 now reporting as coming, thousands wounded and many, many more displaced also. People fled Tehran, went to the north, the Caspian region, and then that region was hit. So now they don't know where to go. The airspace is closed. People are trying to flee from land borders, some of them not knowing where to go, what their future is going to bring. So it's just absolute chaos. And just because you have sort of this domestic enemy doesn't mean that the outside bombing that's coming into also your homes, in addition to the military and the nuclear targets, is also killing civilians, car bombs going off on the street and all of that. That's also not seen as very friendly, putting out messages on Iranian state TV saying people should rise up and go against their government while they're trying to flee the bombing from their homes, from their cities, hasn't really resonated well. And we also see this sort of anti-war messaging coming from the Iranian civil society. Even the most anti-regime, hardcore opposition is making it clear we're not on board with this government, but we're also against the war.